Hey, my name's Rich Fortus, and I play with a band called Guns N' Roses, and I've been with them for the last, 19 years.
Laura?
Yeah, so I'm Laura Cox. I'm a French guitar player, and I'm playing in my own band. We started 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm really happy to be doing that full time now, and really happy to be part of the event. So thanks a lot.
It's good to have you. And Mark?
Yeah, I'm Mark Tremonti. I play with Alter Bridge and recording now with my solo band Tremonti. But I've been just playing guitar for my whole life now, so it's good to be with Dario and on with you guys.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So first off, we'd like to start at the beginning. So when did you guys all start playing guitar? I know, Richard, you started playing another instrument before you started with guitar. So could you give us a bit of a background into your journey as a guitar player?
Yeah, I started on violin when I was probably about 4 years old and played all through school and still do a lot of orchestral work. I also play cello and didn't pick up a guitar, I guess, till I was about 12 and then became obsessed with guitar, and cello and violin fell to the wayside. I'm still I still use them now, but that's how I started out.
So yeah, and whenever you started learning guitar, how did you learn? Did you go for lessons, or were you self-taught, or how did the process start for you?
Records, really, just listening and teaching myself, and eventually did take lessons and studied classical guitar. But yeah, it was a mixture of both, I guess.
So yeah, what about you, Laura? Similar story or very different?
Yeah, I started quite late. I think I started playing guitar when I was 15, and I think I started late because my parents weren't musicians, so they didn't push me into it. But yeah, I knew I wanted to play guitar because my father used to listen to great classic rock music or country music, and I started with classical guitar, taking lessons for I don't know a few months of classical guitar. Then I got bored, and I just decided to pick up an electric guitar, and I instantly knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I took lessons for 4 years with a great teacher, and yeah, that's how I started.
Yeah, and Mark, how did your journey start? As you said, you've been playing your whole life.
Well, I started at 11 years old, so not my whole life, but quite a bit of it. But I wanted a guitar for a lot of years, and every time I heard a song on the radio with when the music broke down to just a guitar, if it was just Boston or anybody, Rick Springfield or Jay Giles Band, you have all these songs where it just dropped to a guitar riff. I was just drawn to it, and I saved up $10 to get my first guitar. My buddy was selling his guitar, and he said he'd sell me his guitar if I would join his band. So so I did that, and I bought my first guitar amplifier for $40 or for $50. I started this journey.
Win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
So do you guys remember the first riff you learned to play?
Smoke on the Water, probably. I know that's the obvious one, but Smoke on the Water or Iron Man, one of those two.
I think mine was Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo.
Nice.
Not well.
I think it was like for me, maybe it was like the "We Will Rock You" solo, or I was obsessed with the Brian May guitar tone, and I wanted to learn the solo from "We Will Rock You." So it was one of the first things I tried learning, but I set the bar really high.
Well, I know some of you have got guitars with you. Do you think any of you could perform the first riff you ever learned to play on the spot?
If I remember how to play it.
Maybe
I could try. I don't know. My guitar isn't plugged, and since I'm not at home, I just flew to Portugal to escape the lockdown. So I don't know if you can, if I can remember. No, I don't remember. I'm trying, but I can't even hear myself with the headphones. But yeah, I'm not plugged. Sorry, but if I'd known, I would have practiced the first riff I learned.
The whole point was putting you on the spot, seeing if you could still do it off the top of your head.
I know.
Let me see. You hear that?
We can hear it, yeah.
Something like that.
That's awesome. You guys picked much harder ones than me. I got the that's the easy one.
Hey, Mark, is that going through the Bogner behind you?
That's going through the let me see. That's going through this thing, the Omega Granophire, which I absolutely love.
What is it?
It's a Mega Ampworks Granophire.
Huh. All right.
A great amp. Yeah, I just picked that one up last month, and it's great.
I haven't heard about those.
So yeah, obviously all the riffs that you first learned are pretty well-known songs. But how did you go about learning? Did you learn songs? Did you learn individual riffs? Or how did you start your journey when it came to sort of learning how to, first off, play guitar and then how to write music as a whole?
Ladies first. Ladies first.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, I think that was my main problem, is that I spent maybe the first 8 years of playing just learning by heart songs and solos, and I missed the jam parts and the playing with people part. But I spent years learning licks or solos, like Sultans of Swing solo. That was my dream. I really wanted to play that. But I mostly learned solos.
What about you, Mark?
When I picked up guitar, I was mostly just learning by myself. I didn't take any lessons. I took one lesson, but I think he was trying to teach me Silent Night the first day, and I got the Mel Bay book, and it just wasn't interesting at all to me. And I said, I think it was Metallica, some Metallica song or something, like, will you teach me this next time? And when I went back, he didn't have it for me. He said he was going to tab it out for me, but he didn't do it, so I quit and just learned on my own. I'm glad I did, because I think a lot of people will stick with the same guitar teacher for many years and kind of turn into their guitar teacher or turn into their favorite guitar player. And I think it might take a lot longer to learn on your own, but I think when you do, you find new sounds that you come up with yourself. And I wasn't a very good guitar player for about 10 years. It took me a long time, but in that time I became more of a songwriter than a guitar player. I used it to got a little 4-track and just created songs, and that's what really got me excited, was writing a song more than the lead stuff at first.
And you, Richard?
Yeah, I remember friends showing me things, because I also played drums when I was little, so I played in different groups, and the guitar players would show me things, and that's what sort of piqued my curiosity about it. And I really started digging in when they'd show me something, and then we started. It was always playing, though. We were always playing together. I was surrounded by a lot of musicians, so, which was pretty fortunate, I guess.
So yeah, that's quite interesting. Richard, you've sort of come from the angle of playing with other people and growing up that way within music, whereas Mark and Laura have grown up playing very much almost isolated and learning to write that way. How do you think that's helped you sort of in your journey as a musician, in the way that you took your path with guitar?
I don't know that it's helped me per se. I think they're both paths to the same end. I think it's growing up playing with other people really helps you get better with the language of music and conversing with people through playing, and that back and forth type of thing, and spontaneous and being able to just roll with things. But I also spent a lot of time, like Mark, sitting in with a 4-track and writing songs. I mean, that was a big part of my development. It just happened later on.
Yeah, and what about you, Mark and Laura, from working almost by yourself exclusively to then going into bands? How do you think that shaped your journey?
I should have started a band earlier, I think, because for me it was really late. The only band I was in was mine, and it's my current band. I started it like 5 or 6 years ago. It's really, really late. So I think I missed some stuff along the way, but now I get to play with other people, obviously, and and sharing music with real people is the real thing. It's not just playing in my bedroom in front of my webcam or YouTube. I realized that late, but I realized it, so I think that's the most important.
Yeah. And what about you, Mark?
I think in about 8th grade, I started playing in bands, and I think one of the most exciting things when you're a young musician and a guitar player is playing with your first drummer. I think when you hear that drum along with your guitar, it's the first time you're like, wow, this is getting real kind of thing. And in high school, I had a buddy named Roy Fredrickson that his parents let us play in his basement and smoke cigarettes and do all the things. His parents really let us do whatever we wanted down there. So we would jam every day in his basement. And we had a band called Wits End, and we recorded at a professional studio in Detroit. One day, I think we saved up $300 or $400 and went down to the studio and recorded 5 songs, and still have that demo tape. But playing in bands is a lot of fun. But I think as a songwriter, I have to be by myself a lot of times. There's only a few people in this world that can be in a room when I'm experimenting with writing, because when you're writing, it doesn't always sound good. It doesn't. You're kind of going on these weird tangents that don't make sense to many people but you and your mind. So as a songwriter, I think for me, it's good to be isolated.
So in terms of the people that can be in the room with you, who would you say they are?
My kids, because my kids' bedroom is right here behind this wall. So they know the ins and outs of what I do. My guitar player, Eric Friedman, he's been, he gets it. He knows what I've been up to songwriting wise. So it's no secret with him. Miles Kennedy, my writing partners in each band are kind of the ones that you have to let your guard down and let them kind of see what you do. And I started doing guitar clinics on tour every show. And then I had been doing them for a few years, and then I added in the songwriting side of it. And I try to do my best to show people a few things they can do to kind of dive into songwriting. And it's funny, one of the songs, my favorite song off this new record, I started in one of those clinics. So it's kind of a good example of, if you do these kind of things, it might work in the long run.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, you've touched on songwriting because we focused very heavily on guitar playing. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I wanted to ask all three of you was kind of when you thought you went from being a guitar player to being a musician.
Who's first?
See, you're all desperate to jump in there. So yeah, Rich, do you want to go first?
A guitar player to being a musician? I don't know. I don't know that I could pinpoint that point, I mean, I think for me it was always, I remember in my first band that was serious band in high school, that was always sort of the goal, was to write our own songs. So we sat down together, and the singer and I wrote a bunch of songs and kept the ones that were good. And, that's, it just sort of rolled from there. And actually, in my experience, we were playing clubs. Where I grew up in St. Louis, there was a lot of underage clubs. So we were able to gig starting at, I guess it was like 15, and we were playing regularly at different places. So we sort of were able to try out new material every week and see what people responded to and what they didn't. But yeah, I don't know. There's not a point where I can pinpoint and say, oh yeah, that's when, I mean, it just sort of, I don't know.
What about you, Laura? Did it change when you sort of started playing with other people, or?
Yeah, I think there was no specific moment where when I realized, yeah, I'm a musician now. But I think that would be my answer, like switching from a bedroom player on YouTube to playing with real people.
That's interesting. So Laura, you started playing just doing like web stuff?
Yeah, YouTube
videos. So okay, so when did you have your first band?
Just 5 years ago. It's pretty recent. I don't know. I think when I started playing guitar, I was like a bit shy and introverted, and just putting stuff on YouTube and being alone in my bedroom was something that I liked to do. And I just missed the playing with my friends part, and it arrived. It happened quite recently. But yeah, I think that's it's when I started my band that maybe I became more of a musician than just a player.
So yeah, I wanted to touch on the subject of YouTube actually. So it probably does flow quite naturally. You guys, whenever Richard and Mark started breaking into the industry, bands were broken on the road. As Richard has just said, you tried different material every week, whereas Laura, you've grown up through YouTube. How would you say the kind of journey as a musician is now changing through online and sort of posting videos of yourself and the confidence you need to do that versus the confidence you need to go out and play live?
For me, it has nothing to do. Just being on my own in my bedroom and setting up my webcam, and I can take all day if I need it. But where we are on tour and we're playing with the band, I don't have all day to play a song or record a song. I have to be good right from the beginning. So it's different. But I like the life on the road and with my band better than the YouTube thing.
Yeah, what about you guys? What are your thoughts on this?
I don't do a ton of the YouTube posting, but I do. I'll go through our solos, and if I'm practicing a solo to get back ready for a tour, I'll record it and then post it on Instagram or something. And I think that's kind of what people want to see the most, is you playing on Instagram rather than a picture of you in front of some building or something. They want to see you playing guitar. So I bought a little, I don't know, it's got to be sitting here somewhere, this little thing, this little Focusrite deal, and I'll just put my phone on there and record a video and post it online. But mainly it's just running through solos.
That's the whole thing is still pretty foreign to me. It's hard. It's really interesting to hear Laura's story and that she started out that way, because as a kid, I mean, that was unfathomable. I mean, you had to be out playing, in clubs and stuff to get any to get any type of recognition. I mean, it was real grassroots, and I'm sure with Mark it was the same way. I mean, you play clubs, you build up a following, right? And then I don't know, where did you start out, Mark?
In Detroit.
In Detroit. Okay. So you were out playing clubs, and then did you push out further and expand your market? And
it was mostly in Detroit. There was the only place kids could play was a local church, so it was and this wasn't Christian rock.
St. Andrews.
This was metal bands. This is all the friends, all the bands around were kind of metal bands. And if they weren't metal bands, they were like Motley Crue type of bands. So either glam rock or metal. So we'd all play every month I think they had a Sunday where bands could play, and I remember weeks and weeks up to it, I'd lose sleep getting ready for these shows, and then from there I moved to Florida, and I didn't get into a band there for 3 years after that. So it was until college that we played all the local open mic nights and stuff.
Yeah, for me, my band would play in St. Louis. We'd play the underage clubs, and then we would start branching out to the college towns, like around the Midwest, and playing from Chicago to Kansas City and Indianapolis and all the college towns in between. So that's, we'd play frat parties or whatever. I mean, when you're a kid, you play anywhere and you sleep on people's couches, and it was just how I grew up. And then we ended up getting signed because we developed a big following, and then we got signed to Atlantic. But at that time, that was the only way you could get heard, was you had to sign with a major,
You got lucky to tour so early.
What's up?
You got lucky to tour so early, to play as a kid in different cities. It wasn't way until I was deep into college that we got to leave town for the first time to play a show.
Wow. All right.
A question I've got here is, you guys are all pretty active on social, even though Rich has just said that it's still pretty foreign. How do you guys keep up with staying on top of social and the kind of demands of that nowadays, whilst also writing, recording, touring, and everything else that comes with being a musician?
Well, I have me personally, I have my brother who does a lot of our Facebook stuff for all the Alter Bridge fans. So anytime anybody asks a question, he answers pretty much everybody. He's on there all day long. That's his job. So he does that. I do Instagram and Twitter as much as I can. But when I go into the deep dive on writing a record or something, I kind of disappear for a couple months and then I come back. I think one of the most exciting things about social media is when you have written a record and you're proud of it and you want to get it out, and you can start leaking it on social media and start seeing people's response. And in this day and age too, we're the first generation, I think, of bands that get to see their fans covering their songs. Imagine back in the day, a band being able to see thousands of people covering their tunes. We're the first folks in this last 10 years or so that get to see that.
And that's got to be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, love it.
So yeah, what about you, Rich? How do you stay on top of everything?
Oh, I don't. I suck at it. I need a brother like Mark.
So what about you, Laura?
Yeah,
I don't have any strategy. I'm just uploading things whenever I feel like I have something to say or to show. But I don't want to be. I don't like being always stuck with my phone. So I know that's weird because I started on YouTube, but I bought my first smartphone like 2 years ago, and otherwise it's the guitarist from my band, Mathieu, who's sometimes who takes care of the social media part. But I just upload things whenever I feel like it, and I'm just not thinking about what I should do or when I should post. And I think that's why it's working. It's because it's natural, and it's not I'm not forcing myself into it.
Yeah. Do you guys ever feel that social media almost gets in the way of being a musician, especially for younger bands, that it's a distraction to constantly promote yourself versus performing and writing?
It can be. Yeah. I think if you know how to use the social medias well, it can really help you, but it can also destroy your I don't know, your music career, or if you're too much into the social media, it's not a good thing, I think.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Rich?
I don't really have a perspective on this because it's not really a big part of my life, It's not my band is very insular and not so public in that way. I think there's still it's funny because for me growing up, Mystique was a attraction to music, you know, not knowing, like, these artists seem like otherworldly, you know, when I was a kid, and now it's very different.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, when you back in the day, it was these untouchable musicians. Nowadays, you get to see their, you know, their backyards and their dogs and, you know, everything. So it's very different nowadays. I remember back in the day, I thought going to one of these heavy metal concerts was a scary, crazy, magical thing. Now you can just pop on YouTube and check it out anytime you want. And it's kind of, it takes a little bit of the mystique and this special quality you used to have out of it. But we have to change with the times, because we're all just I'm starting to feel old in this business. But you know, social media is just a big part of what we do. But we have, you know, we kind of, you know, Guns N' Roses doesn't need social media to fill a stadium anywhere they go. So it's different for each band, you know.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
I'm fortunate
absolutely.
in that way.
Yeah.
I didn't have to learn how to do it, because everybody in my band's very private, you know.
Yeah.
Another question that I've got is the kind of what you guys are up to right now, and how, I know, Mark, you're in the studio at the minute, and you're working on the new Tremonti album. How has 2020 affected your approach to actual studio work versus sort of every other year that you've ever recorded?
Who's gonna start?
For me, it gave me a lot more time on the writing side of things. You know, as staying in town, I had my other guitar player, Eric, he's been staying with me for the last 3 or 4 months. So it's every night we just do our thing, and just a lot more time preparing. It did, you know, at first I think that the coronavirus lockdown helped my guitar playing, because I had tons of time to play. But then I started kind of falling off the wagon a little bit, and a week would go by and I would do other things. And when I'm on tour, I've got a guitar in my hand all the time, and I'm preparing for a show and this and that. But I kind of felt like there was spots where I started lagging on my guitar playing. And when it came back to doing the record again, songwriting to me kills my guitar playing, because I'm not playing lead guitar when I'm songwriting. I'm finger picking, and I'm strumming, and I'm playing chords and singing melodies. So then 2 months into songwriting, you get back into lead guitar playing, and you really got, you know, it takes me a good week or two to get back into the swing of things, and I'm kind of in that mode right now.
So yeah, what about you, Rich? You've just done the Psychedelic Furs record. How was the production on this different to other records? Did you have to prepare anything different in advance?
You know, I did that in between tours. That was pretty much done by the beginning of COVID. Even though it didn't come out, the record was done. So I've actually been working on a new project with the singer of that band, which is all orchestral stuff. So I've really sort of immersed myself into that whole orchestral composition world at the moment. And that's where I've been living. So like Mark, my guitar playing skills have gone to shit. So, but you know, I'm also doing a lot of session work. So people will hire me just to play on their album or on different tracks or movie scores or whatever. So I'm able to do that from home. And I've really been lucky, because it's been very busy. I've had lots of work lined up, and it's been great in that regard, because I'm home with my kids. This is the longest I've ever been home, and is the first summer I've ever spent with my kids. How old are your kids, Mark?
11 and I'm sorry, 15 and 11.
Right on. Okay, so we have similar ages. Mine are 15 and almost 13. So yeah, it's been great to be home for me. And I'll be working in my studio, and then we have lunch. I have lunch with my kids, because they're not going to school. They're home learning, you know, distance learning. Are your kids doing that?
Yeah, one of them wants to go to school, and the other one doesn't. So one does and one doesn't. They have the option at our school. And
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my kids are loving it, but
yeah,
it's been great for me personally. But also, I've been amassing this collection of vintage gear for the last 20 years, and now I'm like really able to focus on using it and like going through all these toys, and it's been a lot of fun, and really digging into recording in that way. So that's been a lot of fun for me.
So yeah, Laura, what about you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, this year I haven't been in the studio. Concerning the music, nothing really interesting happened. Yeah, I've been to the US, to the NAMM for the first time in January, and it was a first great experience. And then we toured in March, just before the lockdown, with Jared James Nichols in Spain. And then after that, lockdown in France, it was like a really heavy lockdown for a few months. And at the beginning, I was really motivated. I felt like, oh, it's a chance now. I can have some time to finish every song I started and never got the time to finish. So the first weeks were great, and I was really into it. And after a few months, I felt like I just wanted to go out and do other things. So I got into surfing, and that's why I'm in Portugal right now. So because of the lockdown, I can't meet my band members. So we are just sending demos and stuff via emails, and working from different places. But hopefully the lockdown should be over, maybe for Christmas or next year, and I'll be able to play with them again. We'll see. I have my fingers crossed, because I really want to play music again.
So would you guys say that the lockdowns almost pushed you towards a different direction of creativity, an almost forced direction?
For me, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you think it's been a healthy thing ultimately, or is it something you're very keen to get out of, like the rest of us?
I did an interview with Ron Jameson, and him and Rob Halford were talking about how all these artists are getting into all these different things. He said, have you, all these different hobbies with all this extra time? I know David Lee Roth's painting these great paintings, and all these artists are all doing all these different things because they can't go and release their energy on stage. So my thing is I've become obsessed with Frank Sinatra. So I'm practicing singing as close to Frank Sinatra as I can, and I'm just reading every book I can about him. I'm just lucky to have the same low vocal range as him, so I drive in my car, take my kids to soccer practice, and sing Frank Sinatra all day.
I'm looking forward to hearing your new album.
I love it.
So yeah, what about you, Laura? Have you found a kind of forced change of creativity?
I during the lockdown, I tend to write softer songs. It's strange, but yeah, now maybe my musical taste evolved a little, and I'm I don't know why. Maybe because it's relaxing my mind, or making me feel better, and making me get through all this madness. But I'm listening and starting to write softer stuff. I don't know if it's a good thing, but because I still want to play rock and roll in my band, but it feels good.
Yeah. So obviously we've talked a lot about writing music. The thing we're all desperate to have is gigs again. I think everyone here wants gigs back. So tell me, how do you take a song from a studio version into a large venue, an arena, a stadium? What process goes into the evolution of that song from something that started potentially in a bedroom right up to being played to up to, I guess, 100,000 people?
I'm not playing in front of 100,000 people, so I'll let you answer this question.
I only do that when we open up for Guns N' Roses. I think you learn a lesson. We've recorded a lot of records over the years, and I think you learn a lesson that a song might be great in the studio, but I think the more and more you record, you write with the live performance in mind. You want these songs to be fun and exciting live. So I make sure that when we record demos, we can do a one take front, start to finish take of these songs. So there's no hiccups when it comes to the live performance of it.
Yeah. What about you, Rich? Any thoughts on this?
We spend a lot of time rehearsing. Slash really loves to rehearse. So because I think, and I agree with this, but you don't want to have to think about the songs when you get on stage. You know, you want it to be all muscle memory. And that's what we really strive for, man. We play, I don't know about you, Mark. We rehearse like 8 hours a day, and it's just, man, we go the whole time. It's not like social hour. We hang out before and after, but during rehearsals, we're really dedicated and standing there, running through everything. We're constantly playing. So that when we get to the stage, it's, you know, we don't have to think about anything.
So yeah, how long would you practice for before going on stage?
As far as rehearsals,
yeah. So
we'll do before a tour. I mean, now coming up, like if we go back out this summer, we'll rehearse for at least a month, I would imagine, because we haven't played. We haven't been playing, so we'll all want to get in every day for a month, I would imagine.
So yeah, there's a lot of hours goes into prepping for each show.
With us, there is, yeah. What about you guys?
You know, if we're putting out a new record and we have new production and all that, we might go a week, just because you know, Miles is from the other side of the country, and Brian lives far away. So, and our crew lives in Europe, so a lot of, you know, crew is overseas. So we have to get everybody together for sometimes it's 3 days. You know, if we're just going out on a normal tour, we'll rehearse for 3 days. We kind of all rely on one another to practice at home. You know, so when we hit rehearsals, everybody's hitting the song on the first take. You know,
yeah. I mean, honestly, that's the way most of the world works. And we're very fortunate in that we can do that. We can spend a month, you know, and
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when I was with Thin Lizzy, when I first joined them, we rehearsed one time for a couple of hours. We literally just ran through the set, and that was it. And then went and played Slain.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember we recorded with an orchestra a few years ago, and biggest night of our lives, biggest night of our career with Alter Bridge, and we rehearsed each song one time before we filmed it. So we thought we'd have all the time in the world, but you know, working with an orchestra, it takes a lot longer to get everything kind of.
Who did your arrangements?
Simon from the Sax Orchestra was the conductor and arranger, and then he he's going to kill me for forgetting his name, but the first chair violin, and the conductor Simon were
master,
yeah. But the Parallax Orchestra were the guys who performed with us, and they were amazing. And I'm trying to work on another project with Simon now. He's kind of a modern edge on kind of a, you know, he's like a rock and roll star conductor kind of guy. He's awesome. So he's one of the only guys that's allowed, I think, to go into the Royal Albert Hall with an orchestra and perform with rock bands. He's great.
Cool.
So yeah, what about you, Laura? What are your thoughts on this? How do you bring a song to life from a studio to a live venue?
Now, when we started the band, I didn't really think about it, but now that before the lockdown, we used to tour a lot, every weekend basically, and now every time I'm thinking about a song, I'm mostly thinking about the position in the set list. So is this song, could this song go for the intro of the show, or maybe for the opening or for the ending? And so now every time I'm writing a song, I don't know if it's a good thing, because maybe I shouldn't think about that, but I'm thinking about the position in the set list, and where it would be good where it could fit in the set list to add something new to our show, and something that fans would like.
Yeah. And so do you guys take much inspiration from other musicians, or where do you find your inspiration?
I do for sure. Yeah, I love. I find my inspiration on the guitar from guys that really don't play much like me. I like guys like Matthias Asado or Derek Trucks, or a young player like Marcus King, or bluesy, jazzy kind of guys that aren't doing the hard rock or metal thing. That's. I think growing up, I got my fill of all that stuff, so now I kind of dive into that stuff. As far as songwriting goes, it's I try to stay in my own little bubble when it comes to that.
Yeah. What about you, Rich?
My inspiration, I'm constantly listening to new artists and trying to find anything that will inspire me. So I spend a lot of time searching out new music. I've always done that though, since I was a kid, and it's just a lot easier now.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot cheaper.
Yeah, I've also been watching a lot of at night. I'll watch a lot of documentaries on different bands, and that's always inspiring. That's what I've been finding inspiring lately.
Anyone in particular?
Anyone in particular?
Oh, sorry. What was that, Mark?
I was just replying. I've been doing the same thing on lockdown, but not documentaries on new bands. More like Count Basie and Quincy Jones, and the old orchestra guys, back the big band guys.
So yeah,
me,
Rich, anyone? Go on ahead, Laura.
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, no. When I started playing guitar, I was really into the big guitar heroes, and I listened to like the classic rock. I'm a big fan of the Guns N' Roses, obviously, the Mark Knopfler and AC/DC, and now I tend to listen. I'm really glad that we have new bands. And that rock and roll is still here, not in France, but in the US. Or I'm listening to lots of new people my age, like Tyler Bryant. I really love his band, and Jared James Nichols, Rival Sons, Blackstone Cherry. Your bands, I love it. The Dead Daisies. I love all of it. So I'm really glad that now we have new music, and it feels refreshing. And so yeah, my inspirations are all these bands.
So yeah, and one of the things, it wouldn't be a D'Addario live stream without us touching on strings. So all you guys play NYXL. Could you just tell us a bit about the strings that you play? So we'll start with you, Rich.
NYXLs are the best strings I've ever used in my career, but like hands down. I use a 10 to 52 usually, and I also love your nickel bronze acoustic strings. Big fan, because it really doesn't have the harshness on the top end that pure bronze strings have. It takes that zing away. It sounds like an older. To me, it sounds like older strings, which I like. But yeah, that's what I've been really, and also your silken steels. I love those for my little parlor Martins. They're fantastic.
So yeah, Mark, what about you?
I usually use your traditional set of 11s and 10s, and I mix them up. I use on the E, A, and D string the thicker, from the set of 11s, and then on the G, B, and E string, the set of 10s. So I think when I was younger and I was trying to play some Stevie Ray Vaughan, for a few days, my fingers were just getting tore up, and I couldn't, so I backed down on the gauge a little bit, just on the high strings. And but at this point, we have so many different tunings, so many low tunings, that each one of my guitars has a piece of tape on the back of them with the string gauge for that particular guitar. So they're kind of all over the place. I leave it up to my guitar tech, who's a genius at setting my guitars up and getting them just right. So if I have a tuning that's, if I'm in a open tuning with the low strings down in B flat or something, I just can't use my normal string. So he'll get it just right. And like I said, if you look at all my guitars lined up on tour, they all have stickers on the back with all the gauges.
If you're in B flat, Mark, what are you using a standard scale, or are you using an extended scale length?
I have a baritone that I love.
Okay,
yeah. I've got one great PRS baritone that we've used for so many recordings, and I'm scared to even take it on tour because it's one of those guitars I want to send back to him and say, please reproduce about 10 of these for me.
Yeah, I do the same thing with baritons.
Great.
So yeah, Laura, what about you?
Yeah, I think actually that I prefer the XT series. I currently use the XT 10 to 46. I stick to standard. So for me, that's what's working the best with me, and I like that they feel natural, but they last longer, and the sound is very clear and bright until the end. I really like this fresh tone, even when the strings are dead, and I'm not sweating a lot, and I'm not hitting the strings really hard. So for me, they last. They would last forever if I didn't change them. But yeah,
Are you tuning
XT.
standard, Laura?
Yeah. Standard tuning, standard gauge, 1046. It's the best. And for my acoustic guitar, I love the phosphor bronze. Phosphor bronze. I don't know how to pronounce it. 12 to 53. It's the same. I really love the clear and bright tone you can get from these strings.
So yeah, just before we wrap up, I've got one final question for you guys. So you three are all pretty tirelessly working musicians. What advice would you give to young artists breaking through right now? So we'll start with Mark.
I've always said, no matter what's going on in the business side of things, you write a good song and it's going to get you where you need to go. If it's, focus on songwriting. That's even at my guitar clinics, everybody wants to learn how to play a fancy sweep arpeggio or something. Like, you focus on writing a song first, because there's probably a kid in every on a street away from you that knows how to play 4 chords, but he has a band and has a gig because he can write songs. So write songs.
And Rich?
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I think that, like we were talking about earlier, the landscape has changed so much. It's hard for me to really give advice in that regard, because I think Laura's the one to ask about how to do that now, because that's really where things have shifted,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's just, a lot of the time people are asking me, I'm starting. How do you do to have that many views on your YouTube videos, and what should I do to reach 200Ks on Facebook? And the truth is, I really don't know what to answer, because when I started on YouTube 12 years ago, there weren't many girls doing that, covering classic rock songs, and I think I got lucky, and I worked and I got lucky and everything. But I think that my advice would be, don't focus on social medias. If you're too into it, and people will notice that you're doing that just to reach followers. Just focus on your music, and if it's good and if it's natural, people will follow naturally. I hope. But the truth is, I don't have any advice. Just do your best and keep your fingers crossed. But yeah, getting noticed now on the internet, I think is really hard, because there are so many people playing great. So I think the only way to get noticed is to write great songs, like you said.
So yeah, that's great. Well, guys, thanks for joining us today. It's been great to have all three of you on. As I said, I'm a huge fan of all three of you, and it's a pleasure to interview everyone here. So thanks again.
It was nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you. Hopefully we can all play guitar together someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
So yeah, thanks for joining us. It's been great. And hopefully we'll all meet in person sometime soon when we're allowed outside again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, guys.
So yeah, cheers, guys.
Cool. Thanks a lot.